A U.S. intelligence report on the origins of the coronavirus could land in the hands of President Biden as soon as today. While the country waits for the results, Beijing is trying to blame the U.S. for the outbreak that was first reported in the Chinese city of Wuhan. Ramy Inocencio reports.
Beijing is angry, and criticisms of that U.S. intel report are getting more shrill in these final few days. One attack line is that Washington is making up lies to further support the Wuhan lab leak theory, and pushback is everywhere in China, even physically, with our CBS News team on the ground. COVID's origin is a sensitive topic in China. These men stopped our CBS camera crew from interviewing Wuhan native Zhang Hai last week, putting him under a de facto house arrest and blocking anyone from getting in or out. We last met him in person in January as he dared sue the government. His father died from COVID. He's been told to shut up if journalists came calling. Later, via Zoom, he told us he believes Wuhan is where COVID began. This kind of talk is like treason against Beijing's official narrative, despite the world's first known COVID cases being recorded there.
There is a conspiracy try to pinpoint the origin to China.
Victor Gao is a longtime China foreign affairs commentator.
This virus existed earlier than the outbreak of Wuhan in other parts of the world, including, most logically, in the United States, centering on Fort Detrick.
Few in the U.S. know about the now closed center of the U.S. bioweapons program near Washington, D.C. But in China, Fort Detrick is famous. Even a rap song demands it be investigated. Yang Xiyu at China's Institute of International Studies claims there's proof COVID started outside China.
You cannot say it's impossible from Europe, impossible from the United States.
And the WHO has been barred from returning to Wuhan after their first visit in January, furthering complaints beyond China's borders over lack of access and transparency.
Do you think the World Health Organization should be allowed to go back in?
If the second investigation doesn't provide the evidence about the Wuhan lab, then you will require the third, even the fourth.
In short, no. And the propaganda is working. The WHO is bullying the Chinese people, this person told CBS News in Wuhan. The U.S. is trying to shift blame to China, says another. A third told us the U.S. brought COVID here. During CBS's time in Wuhan, these same vehicles followed our crew all 3 days of filming, the same men sitting in the hotel lobby trying to take photos, knowing not everyone accepts the Communist Party line, like Zhang Hai, a frequent target of China's surveillance campaign. I hope the U.S. investigation will lead to Chinese officials getting punished and families of victims finally finding comfort.
All right, let's bring in Ramy Inocencio to talk a little bit more about this. So, Ramy, many people will remember that the WHO did conduct an investigation. Can we remind us what the conclusions of that investigation into the origins of the coronavirus were? But also, there's a caveat, and you mentioned it in your story, that just how much access did the WHO have, and is their investigation considered sort of the final word?
Sure. The prevailing consensus, basically, Anne-Marie, is that they agreed that COVID probably came from some animal someplace in the world, potentially in China, say other people, and that coronavirus then jumped to an intermediary animal that was living close to other humans, and that jumped to humans. Basically, that's called a zoonotic kind of transmission. That's the prevailing sentiment that consensus has basically around the world. There are three other ones. One, that coronavirus jumped straight from an animal, potentially a bat, to humans. Cold chain transmission that was on potentially packages traveling around the world. And the least likely, they said, at least at that time, was that it came from a lab leak in Wuhan. Now, to your point, though, there are now more criticisms that maybe they didn't get as much access, as transparent as they wanted to get inside Wuhan. To that point, Peter Ben Embrecht, who was the WHO lead investigator, actually came out just a couple weeks ago in a Dutch TV documentary, and he said as much, that they were actually a little bit more controlled than they wanted to be, and there has been doubts and skepticism that have risen even after those comments. As you would expect, though, Beijing hasn't been very happy about that. I myself reached out to Peter Ben Embrecht, and in the past few months, he has been forthcoming, texting me, but I reached out to the WHO to talk to him officially for that package that you just saw, and they said that he wasn't available. So clearly the WHO is trying to stay away from a lot of the politics around this.
Well, you know, WHO is in a challenging position. You know, if an investigation is to continue, if that first investigation was maybe a preliminary one, they're going to need the cooperation of China. And so it's going to be difficult to come out and be particularly critical while still hoping to get cooperation in the future. But let us talk about another theory that you just brought up in the list, the lab leak theory. Is there a possibility, now we have the results of this new investigation, could this investigation give any warrant to the lab leak theory?
Yeah, well, that is the fear, the massive concern from Beijing and from official government, state media sources, that this report is going to going to maybe find new information, new evidence, new intel out there that says that, hey, look, there actually is more credibility to this lab leak theory. Now, this report hasn't come out. We haven't seen it yet. President Biden is supposed to get it as soon as today, but that is the fear from Beijing, and that's why there's all this rabid, really, pushback amongst all these channels, from people to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You know, in my package just now, you saw that there was even this rap video. To think that a rap video would be rapping about a pandemic and about Fort Detrick, I can tell you that I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, and growing up there, I never even knew that Fort Detrick existed, let alone it was the home for U.S. bioweapons. But this is what Beijing is trying to hammer home. Fort Detrick, I don't know if I can say it's a household name in China, but I think more people might know about Fort Detrick in China than they do about the United States.
Yeah, that's funny, because as I was sort of preparing to talk to you, I had to Google Fort Detrick myself to make sure I was even saying it correctly. But let us talk about this new theory that is being presented by some Chinese officials, Fort Detrick theory. What is it? Can you give us any insight into how well this propaganda is working? You know, do people in China believe that it's a viable theory?
According to the people that CBS News has spoken to on the ground in mainland China, and if you look on social media, on Weibo, Fort Detrick really is very popular. It's a trending phrase, and the fact that people are trying to push through this idea, it's this kind of tit for tat that Beijing is trying to do. Yang Xiyu, who I interviewed for that report, he basically admitted that Beijing and state channels are focusing on Fort Detrick because Washington has been focusing on the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, that was surprising to me that he actually said that. He also did say, though, to his credit, that he didn't think that that was actually a fair thing. So we're seeing a little bit of daylight in between some analysts and the official government line. But, you know, when it comes to what this amounts to is politicization and nationalism in China, whether people believe in it or not, you can't get away from it. Weibo, China's version of Twitter, is scrubbed clean of phrases, of ideas that Beijing doesn't want people to be talking about. The focus here now for Beijing, for the government, is that basically COVID happened someplace in the world, but it didn't happen in China. And if Beijing could say where it did, it would be the United States. And they're really focusing on Fort Detrick.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like we'll probably never get to the bottom of that mystery, the true origins of COVID. And at this point, I don't know if it matters. Now we are just dealing with the fallout of that, and that's not going to change at all. Ramy, thank you very much.